Hello and welcome to Phantom Forces Weapon Spotlight, a series where I give a more subdued and informative look on the weapons of Phantom Forces. In this episode, I'll be taking a look at the MAC10. The MAC10 is a PDW unlocked at rank 23. It deals 36 damage up to 20 studs and falls off to 19 damage by 70 studs. It fires at 1090 RPM, the second fastest in the game by default. It has a standard 1x body multiplier and 1.4x head multiplier. It also has a standard 1500 studs per second muzzle velocity and a 0.5 studs penetration depth. Here is the shots to kill table. It has high recoil that's composed of both camera and model recoil, as well as a lot of recoil displacement in both vertical and horizontal recoil. It holds 30 rounds in the magazine with 150 rounds in reserve of .45 ACP rounds. The reload speed is 2.4 seconds and the empty reload speed is 3.2 seconds. It has a standard PDW 15 walk speed and a very fast 18 aim speed. I first need to preface this by telling you that the MAC10 is a very attachment dependent weapon. The weapon's stats and playstyle can vary very drastically depending on the conversion and attachments used. So this section will discuss the MAC10 as it is by default. The MAC10 is a very extreme weapon. It forgoes any notion of being a balanced weapon by being entirely unusable beyond close to medium range. But at close range, it can and will completely delete your enemies. You'll struggle to hit enemies beyond around 50 studs, give or take. It has an extremely fast fire rate that's balanced out by having an equally extreme amount of recoil, both vertical and horizontal. With this in mind, the best way to use the default MAC10 is to rush into close range and try to stay in small close range spaces where the enemies can't run away. Getting caught out in the open is the worst thing that can happen because you just do not have the range to compete with other automatics and snipers. That being said, there are a variety of attachments that can help you increase your range significantly, and I will cover them shortly. The 9mm conversion changes your damage model quite a bit, but significantly increases your fire rate and decreases your recoil. It now deals 31 damage up to 50 studs and falls off to just 15 damage by 100 studs. It fires at 1250 RPM, making it the fastest PDW in the game, and everything else here remains unchanged. Here is the shots to kill table. The recoil is still high despite having less model recoil because the RPM increase adds more recoil back anyway. It holds 32 rounds in the magazine with 160 rounds in reserve of 9mm rounds. The reload speed, walk speed, and aim speed remains the same. The 9mm conversion, as it is by default, does not change your playstyle much actually. It adds a bit of range, and although it loses the ability to 3-shot kill to the body at close range, the fire rate increase more than makes up for it. The recoil is relatively the same, but it's a tad bit easier to hit people at medium range now. This conversion isn't that strong by itself. Personally, its major strength is being used as a basis for a medium range MAC10 build. Using the 9mm conversion as a base, you can add a stock and a long barrel variant, and you'll end up with a MAC10 with not that much recoil and can reliably kill people up to around 100 studs while still being a monster at close range. In fact, this is the build that you're looking at in the background footage. Carbine barrel makes your damage fall off significantly slower while adding muzzle velocity and reducing a wide variety of different kinds of recoil. But it halves your maximum damage range and increases recoil damping. This is basically an extreme version of long barrel. It's very good if you're looking to give the MAC10 a lot of range. It's best used in conjunction with a lot of other recoil reducing attachments and maybe the 9mm conversion, so you can use the MAC10 very effectively at a range. The Psionics suppressor has a tiny reveal range. It also increases your fall off range, decreases your camera recoil, but also reducing your maximum damage range, reducing your maximum damage, increasing your recoil damping, and reducing your overall handling speed. Now this one is a suppressed long barrel. It's perfect for flanking and also increasing the MAC10's range, although in that department it's not as good as the carbine barrel, but I recommend the same thing as I did with the carbine barrel. Just go with a lot of recoil reduction, maybe use the 9mm conversion. Full stock reduces your camera recoil, increases your weapon recovery speed, reduces your hipfire damping, but it increases your overall recoil damping and decreases your handling speed. Full stock is a very solid option if you want to reduce the MAC10's recoil without much downside. It doesn't offer any extreme benefits nor extreme downsides, so it's very good overall, especially if you don't know what kind of playstyle you want to invest into yet. Plus, it's in the other attachment slot, so it's already pretty much one of the best things you can put on the gun anyway. Extended stock reduces your rotational recoil by a lot with no walk speed penalty, but it increases your camera recoil, displacement, and damping, as well as transitional recoil. Extended stock is a very hard attachment to use as is. Despite the massive rotational recoil reduction, it's much harder to use when aiming down sights. This is because of the increased transitional recoil, making it pretty much impossible to aim as the entire gun will move upwards and obscure your view. You're pretty much left with two options if you want to use the stock. You either go for a full close range hipfire build, or you put on an AMG Terminator if you really want to use a mid-range build with it, as that's pretty much the only optic you can use and still aim with. And that concludes this rather loaded episode of Final Forces Weapon Spotlight. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel as it helps a lot. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.